A deadly shooting involving prominent Minnesota lawmakers has left the state in shock. But with the suspect now in custody, many are asking, could he face the death penalty? And what happens next? Let's break down what we know about the charges facing Vance Luther Boelter and the laws that could shape his fate. 57-year-old Vance Luther Boelter was arrested near his home in Green Isle, Minnesota, after what officials called the largest manhunt in state history. He's now charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder and 2 counts of second-degree attempted murder. Prosecutors say he targeted former House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, killing them in their Brooklyn Park home. Earlier that same morning, Boelter allegedly shot Senator John Hoffman and his wife, Yvette, at their home in Champlin. Thankfully, both Hoffman and his wife survived and are recovering in the hospital. While the current charges are severe, legal experts and reporters like KARE 11's Lou Raguzzi say these could soon be upgraded to first-degree murder by a grand jury. Why does that matter? Because first-degree or premeditated murder carries a harsher sentence, often life without parole in Minnesota. And when a grand jury is involved, it usually signals that prosecutors believe the act was planned ahead of time, not just a crime of the moment. Now, here's a question people across the country are asking. Does Minnesota have the death penalty? The short answer is no. Minnesota abolished the death penalty in 1911 and hasn't executed anyone since 1906. A passionate speech by Gyp George Mackenzie back then called for the end of what he described as judicial murder, and the law has stood ever since. So, even if Boelter is convicted of first-degree murder under state law, he cannot be sentenced to death in Minnesota. But here's where things get complicated. According to the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, federal prosecutors are also preparing charges. If they decide to charge Boelter under federal terrorism or hate crime laws, and if those charges include murder, then the federal death penalty could be on the table. There's even talk that former President Donald Trump has asked the U.S. Department of Justice to pursue capital charges in this case. So, what's next for Vance Boelter? He remains in custody in Hennepin County. Prosecutors are expected to bring the case to a grand jury. Additional state and federal charges are likely. The maximum sentence for each second-degree murder charge is 40 years, and 20 years for each attempted murder charge. But the final outcome could depend on whether federal prosecutors step in and how the grand jury proceeds. This case is still developing, and emotions are running high in Minnesota and beyond. As officials continue their investigation, the big legal questions remain. Will this case stay in state court, or could federal charges change everything? We'll keep you updated as more details emerge. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for the latest news breakdowns.